It's called tactical nuclear weapons.
Well, why have them if you're not going to
global.
use them and leverage them?
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
You're not up to doing the job.
Such a nasty
Trust fund. You're not up to doing the job. The
Such a
Social
nasty
Security
one.
Trust Fund. You're not up to doing the job. The
Such
Social
a nasty
Security
one.
Trust Fund.
Okay, so here we are with the stuff. Now we can talk about that too when we get going up.
Well, we can, yeah, but let's.
No, what I mean is her because all she's doing is denigrating, wealth and prosperity like it's evil.
Assuming he can't figure out how to get out of it. Assuming he can't figure out how to get out of it. Well, Chris, I am on record as saying that we need to put more money into the Social Security Trust Fund. That's part of my commitment to raise taxes on the wealthy. My Social Security payroll contribution will go up, as will Donald's, assuming he can't figure out how to get out of it. But what we want to do is to replenish the Social Security Trust Fund.
Shut up and sit down.
All right, and we are back with another edition of the Chasing Issues program, where we discuss culture, politics, current events with the editors and writers of the Chasing Issues web magazine. I'm your host, Greg, and my co-host is Rob.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. So, shall we get started? Today's highlights, we're going to be talking about the third presidential debate with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. How do you think the debate went last night?
I watched it. I didn't watch it as detailed as I wanted to. And when I went back to watch it all over again, after kind of listening to what everybody's been saying, people have been saying it's a draw. They've been saying, oh, Donald didn't do that good. I kind of beg to differ. I think he did really well. And I have kind of a lot of comments to say about the performance on both sides and the whole thing, as a whole.
I agree, and we'll discuss that just as soon as we get back from our commercial break. The music on this podcast is brought to you by bensound.com, where you can download royalty-free music at no charge. You can use this music in YouTube, a podcast, or any other multimedia project. Bensound can be found at bensound.com. Once again, that's bensound.com. Royalty-free music by Bensound. All right, we're back. Thank you for joining us. We're in the Gray Line Studios. Rob, so to pick back up where we left off before the commercial break, you were stating that a lot of the media is already labeling the third presidential debate as a draw. However, you beg to differ. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. And I'm going to try and be not so biased for Trump. But after watching that debate again, I really didn't. I'm kind of really not on her side. And even at the very end, she looks all angry. And I don't know. I'm disappointed in her completely now. That was a turner big time for me.
Yeah.
Third debate.
She's certainly coming off as a little creepy. I mean, you're right. Some of her facial expressions are just out there. And a lot of people, specifically people on the left, they could probably say the same thing about Trump and some of his hateful expressions. I've heard that term used a lot. And that reflects his anger and his hate towards those of us who are not with him. I disagree. I think at his age and with the things he accomplished in life, he's frustrated. And that frustration is the same frustration that a lot of us feel. And so the system is what's frustrating us. The system's what's frustrating him.
I think he actually knows a lot more about, he's been getting really good at it at this point, which is a good thing, but I don't know. I think he could really do a good job, and I hope they give him the chance.
I do too. I agree. And before we get too much into the nuts and bolts, let's just listen to a couple of highlights real quick.
Assuming he can't figure out how to get out of it. Assuming he can't figure out how to get out of it. Assuming he can't figure out how to get out of it. Chris, I am on record as saying that we need to put more money into the Social Security Trust Fund. That's part of my commitment to raise taxes on the wealthy. My Social Security payroll contribution will go up, as will Donald's, assuming he can't figure out how to get out of it. But what we want to do is to replenish the Social Security Trust Fund by making sure that we have sufficient resources, and that
right there, what she's talking about, taking more tax dollars from the wealthy. And
that's right.
Of course,
she's denigrating and putting down wealth and success.
Correct.
And legitimate effort. It's like we said before, everything is about the money. It's all going to go that direction. It's just more smoke and mirrors.
It is. And to speak out against anybody with success, and of course, dollar signs are not the only level of measuring success, but it's probably one of the biggest factors out there because money can do so much. And I don't mean just on a material level. I mean on a relief level. You take someone that has a good heart that wants to help people. What's the first thing that they want to do aside from donating their time? They donate their dollars. They whip out that checkbook. And if you're running a government that's taking those tax dollars away, you're going to have less people that are going to be charitable because, for one, the money's not going to be there. And two, they're going to already feel since that money's there, then the government's taking care of it. Now, we all know the government can't efficiently do anything, and they can't do it as well as you or I could on our own time and our own dollar because we have that accountability right there while we're doing it. And that's the issue with the government. And so I think it's definitely warranted.
And the government is, let's face it, the government is us. There is no government without us. Without the effort and the money made from the people, and then the government can tax it, there is no government. It's all dependent on us. So by denigrating us and putting us down in that way, yeah, you're a nasty person. That's exactly what he's saying. Once again, nasty. You're just not being nice. You're not being nice at all to the people who are making it happen.
Well, the government, and specifically those on the left and sometimes on the right, they're always talking about and criticizing the American people for not trusting the government to do the right thing when the government's doing the same thing by taxing its citizens heavily. Because basically by taxing it, saying we can do it better, the government itself doesn't believe that its citizens can act responsibly and do what they need to do to help people. The trust is not there from the government. So it's really scary that the government itself doesn't believe in its own citizens. And of course, now as the page turns, the citizens definitely don't trust the government and don't trust that it can do what it's supposed to do. All right, well, let's get straight into the debate. We'll break it down a little bit further as we go along. I do realize this will be long. We'll try and do our best to make it entertaining, and we thank you again for joining us.
I'll tell you, man, to watch the whole I could comment almost all the time watching it.
That's the whole thing.
It's pretty
and we can do that.
I mean, I'm just disgusted. Every time she starts talking, it's like I have something to say.
Good evening from the Thomas and Mack Center at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. I'm Chris Wallace of Fox News, and I welcome you to the third and final of the 2016 presidential debates between Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and Donald J. Trump.
He has got a ton of makeup on. I mean, he looks like he's laid out in a coffin almost.
I think he did a pretty good job, by the way.
I think he did a fantastic job.
I've heard some people say some negative things about him just because he just can't follow in the footsteps of his dad or something like that. But honestly, I thought he controlled this pretty well. He did fine. Good job.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
For one, I do watch occasionally Fox News Sunday with Chris Wallace, which has earned him 3 Emmys. And then he's on the radio occasionally with a couple of different syndicated shows. I think he did a fantastic job. He definitely moderated it much better than any of the other debates. I like this format better, where they actually broke it down into 6 separate topics, and these are the policy topics, basically. These are specifics. You're covering immigration, you're covering entitlements and debt, the Supreme Court, the economy, foreign policy, and then, of course, each candidate's fitness to serve president. I think all in all, Trump, for the first 30 minutes, and we'll start playing it again here in a minute, but I think he did fantastic the first 30 minutes. He kept his calm. He was fairly articulate. He was a different Trump. He was much more sedate.
And I like these topics because they're not a whole bunch of emotional things that take away the real important things, which are what they're going to talk about now.
Oh, true. And I think
all that social issues.
And I think if Trump has a good staff, he will focus on these 6 topics. Or really, I would throw that last one off. But I mean, if he really wanted to be a little bit more personal on his attacks towards Hillary, he could definitely run on the last topic as well. But if he didn't, he could just stick to these 5 topics between now and Election Day on November 8th, and he could probably pick up a lot more voters of the undecideds.
Right.
I mean, these are really that important.
Immigration is such a sensitive issue, though. Got a lot of people affected by it, and whether right or wrong, whatever the issues are, it's still always touchy, and it can hurt or help these candidates. It's an interesting one, immigration.
It is, and it's surprising that there are so many people that support an open border policy. In other words,
Yeah.
see, for me, I agree we should have immigration because diversity and the right kind of immigration certainly makes America stronger. But to have just straight open borders is the equivalent to just saying to your neighbors, hey, whatever you want, come on over, hang out my yard.
Right.
Trespass
I'll
all
keep
you
the
want.
door unlocked all the time.
Yeah.
Garage will be up. You can take whatever you want.
I got food in the fridge.
Just make sure you put it back, please.
Help yourself to a beer.
Sure, yeah, that'll work. And after,
I don't understand this kind of mentality.
it's all about me,
Well, or is it money for
That's
votes,
true.
et
True.
cetera?
Oh yeah, pandering. There you go.
It is big time. Now, after the 30 minutes, I think Trump fell for Clinton's baiting. She easily baited him, and I think she kind of flipped the script a little bit. And I know we already played the highlights earlier from just one instance of where she manipulated him and kind of goaded him a little bit. You'll see when we start breaking it down that she even mansplains him once or twice. And actually
Yeah, but
says,
I've still got my opinions on this. I think he killed her the whole time.
Well,
when we get there,
I
I can't wait. We can talk.
Yeah, she does relentlessly torment him. So let's go ahead and start rolling the sound again.
All right.
We welcome the Democratic nominee for president, Secretary Clinton, and the Republican nominee for president, Mr. Trump. Secretary Clinton, Mr. Trump, welcome. Let's get right to it. The first topic is the Supreme Court. You both talked briefly about the court in the last debate, but I want to drill down on this because the next president will almost certainly have at least one appointment and likely or possibly 2 or 3 appointments, which means that you will, in effect, determine the balance of the court for what could be the next quarter century. First of all, where do you want to see the court take the country? And secondly, what's your view on how the Constitution should be interpreted? Do the founders' words mean what they say, or is it a living document to be applied flexibly according to changing circumstances? In this segment, Secretary Clinton, you go first. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chris, and thanks to UNLV for hosting us. I think when we talk about the Supreme Court, it really raises the central issue in this election. Namely, what kind of country are we going to be?
Well, that's a good question. What kind of country do we want to be?
What kind of opportunities will we provide for our citizens? What kind of rights will Americans have? And I feel strongly that the Supreme Court needs to stand on the side of the American people, not on the side of the powerful corporations and the wealthy. For me, that means that we need a Supreme Court that will stand up on behalf of women's rights, on behalf of the rights of the LGBT community, that will stand up and say no to Citizens United, a decision that has undermined the election system in our country because of the way it permits dark, unaccountable money to come into.
Okay, one thing we never really talk about, no, I don't really hear people talking about it. All these things about women's rights and equality in jobs and all this kind of stuff. There's human resources sections in every single job, and there's human resources laws and regulations for states and federal and everything.
Sure, OPM manages that.
But let's talk about, state. It's within the state and it's within those companies. Why do we have to bring this up loudly in politics? I mean, it's already covered. All you have to do is call it out, go to your HR manager and complain, file a grievance. We're done. And it will continue to go. So you got any comments on that one?
Well, she's reading straight out of the Democratic Party platform. It specifically mentions the LGBT rights and rights for people with disabilities, it's women's rights, etc. on page 2. In fact, she even mentions just now in that clip Citizens United decision, and that's actually mentioned on page 2 as well of the Democratic Party platform. So she's just reiterating what her party has already laid out. Now, how much she had to do with the party's platform, I don't know. It's kind of interesting, though, because if you read the party's platform, it even says that, they believe that we're stronger together. In fact, page 1, Democrats believe that cooperation is better than conflict, unity is better than division, empowerment is better than resentment, and bridges are better than walls. It's a simple but powerful idea. We are stronger together. Now, I don't know if she chose to come up with that phrase and they added that to the party platform, or if she just took it right out of the party platform and decided to use it as her slogan. It's kind of interesting.
Well, it's got to be because she's trying to pander to a larger audience. If you can get that many people on board with it. So they were convincing everybody about that. Like I said, though, they're trying to reinvent the wheel. I mean, we already have HR departments. Why are you going to now? You're using drama once again.
Well, sure, but that's the Democratic
do people not
way.
Know?
The Democratic way to get elected is to be that sleazy used car salesman that talks about all those emotional triggers, the top's down, the wind in your hair, you're looking cool, and all the women are looking at you, kind of deal. Whereas the Republicans kind of play on policy and they get into specifics. They talk about, it's got a V8 engine, it's got heated seats, it's got leather seats, this thing drives at 120 miles an hour at max top speed. They describe the features and they break it down. But they don't ever sell. There's a difference there. So
yeah,
so she's just
tactics.
continuing that same tactic.
Yeah,
it's.
I just think HR already exists. I mean, this is kind of funny. Once again, they're just going to keep on preying on your emotion. I get it.
But that's it. They play strictly on emotion.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous. And then they complain whenever the party of the right builds up a coalition or a movement, as Trump has been calling it, and they say that it's built on emotion. Well, hello, you guys have been building on emotion for 50 years, 60 years.
Well, it kind of makes people gullible. And if people don't even understand that, they're being gullible by listening to it. Stuff is already solved. They're just not using the systems.
Yeah, that's true. And I agree. And, a lot of people don't know how to use the systems, and that's their own fault. They need to be researching. They need to do their due diligence. Right. I think people basically, not everybody, obviously, because there are a lot of us that will actually research what it is that we need to do. We'll look it up online, or we'll look it up within our employee manual, wherever our employer is, and we'll do what we have to do.
Maybe we should start re-emphasizing HR manuals a lot more everywhere. Everyone should start understanding what it's all about.
True.
It benefits them.
And the first thing, I used to work in HR for quite a few years, about 8 years or so. And the first thing that I always ask people, well, what does the policy say? When I was in college, and the instructor was like, that's the worst answer possible. Well, wait a minute. So you're just going to go off the cuff? And his solution was the same thing that Democrats are. Well, how do they feel about it? Okay, look, I understand that it's important that you can relate to them and you need to understand how they feel. But at the same time, from a logical standpoint, they're not going to get anywhere if they're not coming from a logical point. If they're not using reasoning and saying, is it even against policy? Then it doesn't really matter how they feel because it's not going to go anywhere. And that's where you, as the HR person, need to empathize with them and kind of move them emotionally down, allow them to vent and then kind of move emotionally, but then explain to them, okay, but that's not a policy violation. And if you still feel that then you need to take action, then you research that on your own, or you could go talk to an attorney. I would never actually recommend that, but I mean, that's their options. But if it's not against the policy, then there's no action for them to take. Just because somebody feels bad or they're butthurt, as we always like to call it when we're in the Marine Corps, it doesn't make a difference. You could be upset or butthurt about a dozen different things before you even walk in the door. Can you sue somebody? Can you have a corrective action for it? No. My coffee wasn't hot enough this morning. Or this asshole in front of me was doing 40 in a 65. You can't sue somebody because you're upset. Anyway, I don't, I know that's a rant, but I think, like you said, people aren't referencing what's already there. They're not working with the system that's already constructed, and that's an issue. Somebody needs to take some time with them and show them how to work within the system.
Yeah, because if you go to an actual, HR person, it's not like they're going to turn you away or not help you. They're going to help you.
Yeah.
All right.
Our electoral system. I have major disagreements with my opponent about these issues and others that will be before the Supreme Court. But I feel that at this point in our country's history, it is important that we not reverse marriage equality, that we not reverse Roe v. Wade, that we stand up against Citizens United, we stand up for the rights of people in the workplace, that we stand up and basically say the Supreme Court should represent all of us. That's how I see the court, and the kind of people that I would be looking to nominate to the court would be.
I'd love to know what Trump's writing right now. And for those of us that are watching it, we see that he's got his head turned down, and he definitely is making notes on something, or he could just be drawing stick figures.
Down. This is a nasty woman. I mean, what I'm thinking about when I'm listening to this section is, we have a woman here who hasn't really probably dealt with HR. We have a man over there who's probably dealt with HR all the time.
Oh, I'm sure.
He's got his own businesses. He can probably spout back, whole rules and regulations in HR.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he probably knows stuff.
Although I'll tell you a little secret that a lot of people don't know, that on a board of a company, there are different pillars of the company itself, management. There's a chief financial officer, chief executive officer, which Trump would be the chief executive officer. And the chief financial officer gives briefs, and they discuss quite a bit with the CEO like Trump, and they give a financial standing of what the company is, where they're standing at. But, at a board meeting, up until recent times, HR didn't even have a seat at the board. They did not have a direct representative to speak out and talk about the employees. And it's great that it's moving in that direction. But one thing I will give for her that, we were just talking about working within the system. It's really difficult for employees to work within the system if the HR head is not even doesn't even have a seat at the table. So they can't speak out and say, look, this is what the employees need or what they want, or this is what's going on. This is your standing, not from the financial sense, but from the standing of employees sense.
Well, can you imagine they're at a board meeting someday, and let's say Hillary's on that board too, and Trump is the executive officer, and then Hillary brings up some kind of problem like this, not being fair, not making enough money, whatever. Trump's the executive officer, and then like towards the end, he's going to go, Hillary, can you send the HR supervisor to me this afternoon? I want to talk to him. And it's over. I mean, there's not. Let's turn this into this big macro problem where it's an issue for the entire company. It's an isolated thing, and I want to nip it in the bud now. It's just that simple.
It is. But hopefully the HR leadership is already nipping it in the bud before it ever gets up to the CEO.
So then you'd be going to that supervisor saying, let me see your notes on this one.
Correct.
Oh, you don't have any notes?
Come brief me. Yeah, come brief me on it. What's going on? No, what I mean by not having a seat at the board is just the overall feel for what's happening. What's the morale like? Of course, Trump has a reputation of being out there a lot. He even knows the doorman's name, things like that. Good leaders, Jack Welch in his book talks about is that no matter what level of management or leadership you're in, it's always good to know your people, trying to learn their names everywhere from the janitor all the way up. And the reason being is not just because you can connect with them emotionally, but it's also because some of your best input won't come from management. It will come from the people out on the work floor, either be a factory or in the lobby of a hotel or wherever.
You remember when we were in the Marine Corps, man, and there would be certain COs that would know everybody's name, be walking down the stairs. How you doing, Rob? How's your wife doing? How's she doing? Yep. I mean, sometimes you would just be amazed, and the best leaders you felt were the ones that had these perfect memories.
Oh yeah, and it's not just about having that perfect memory. It's also about asking for input. So what's going on today? How do you feel like we're how do you feel like we're acting? Do you feel like we're going in the right direction? What do you think about this product? Or, there's a dozen or more questions that a good leader could ask just beyond the personal level stuff. So it's just a matter of staying in touch.
In the great tradition of standing up to the powerful, standing up on behalf of
Look at his face.
our rights as Americans. And I look forward to having
Reminds me
that
of a Jeff Dunham
opportunity.
dummy.
I would hope that the Senate would do its job and confirm the nominee that President Obama has sent.
This is where he's going to go. Can you send your HR supervisor to me?
Fundamentally should operate. The president nominates, and then the Senate advises and consents or not, but they go forward with the process.
Secretary Clinton, thank you. Mr. Trump, same question. Where do you want to see the court take the country, and how do you believe the Constitution should be interpreted?
Well, first of all, it's great to be with you, and thank you, everybody. The Supreme Court, it's what it's all about. Our country is it's just so imperative that we have the right justices. Something happened recently where Justice Ginsburg made some very, very inappropriate statements toward me and toward a tremendous number of people, many, many millions of people that I represent.
Yeah, she threatened to leave.
She was forced to apologize, and apologize she did. But these were statements that should never, ever have been made.
Now, I want to pick on him for a second when it comes to what he just said.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel, but I almost felt like I didn't really need to hear that you got apologized to from this person. Personally, I don't know. What's your thoughts on that? I didn't really care about it.
I don't think he needed. Well,
that's going to be one of those things that he's going to get picked on by the other side.
Oh yeah. Did you hear Ruth Ginsburg's comments or read about them somewhere?
Like, not exactly.
Well, she basically said that if he's elected, then she's going to step down, and she's made some other discouraging remarks. And she's not the only one. Sotomayor reportedly said that she liked to smack him with a baseball bat or something. I don't know if it was in a joke or if she was serious, but these are two leftist Supreme Court justices, and they're, by even making these kind of statements, are interjecting themselves into the political discussion and debate. So that's very wrong on their behalf.
To even think that they would step down and leave their positions because of this guy, I don't know about that. If it were me, I wouldn't. If I didn't like somebody like that, I'm not going to leave and satisfy him. I'm going to stay my ground and stay on the agenda that I think is important,
Oh, sure.
I think that's ridiculous that they would even say, I don't think I believe it either. I don't think they're going to leave because of him.
Yep.
That just doesn't sound right. I don't know. That's just my thoughts.
Justice Ginsburg made some very, very inappropriate statements toward me and toward a tremendous number of people, many, many millions of people that I represent. And she was forced to apologize, and apologize she did. But these were statements that should never, ever have been made. We need a Supreme Court that, in my opinion, is going to uphold the Second Amendment and all amendments, but the Second Amendment, which is under absolute siege. I believe if my opponent should win this race, which I truly don't think will happen, we will have a Second Amendment, which will be a very, very small.
I don't think he should have said that either.
Right now.
No.
But I feel that it's absolutely important that.
Although she is against the Second Amendment.
That it is under such.
I know,
trauma.
But the way he just said, I don't think that will happen, that she'll win. I don't think she should have said that.
And I've named 20 of them. The justices that I'm going to appoint will be pro-life. They will have a conservative bent. They will be protecting the Second Amendment. They are great scholars.
He would have been better, instead of saying a conservative bent, what should have said a constitutional bent.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
The Supreme Court justice's position is not to bend it either conservative or liberal. It's supposed to just interpret it based upon the writings of the founding fathers, intent from the Federalist Papers, and from the actual Constitution itself.
Then again, he could, they can change those laws, and then all of a sudden it will become a conservative law, and now they ultimately got their way. Now they can stay on those rules, and it did become conservative, and that's an issue for them. That's what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
They're people of tremendous respect. They will interpret the Constitution the way the founders wanted it interpreted. And
that's all he should have said right there.
Very important. I don't think we should have justices appointed that decide what they want to hear. It's all about the Constitution and so important, the Constitution the way it was meant to be. And those are the people that I will appoint.
Mr. Trump, thank you.
Sometimes I think he just keeps on talking and doesn't come off as articulate as he should, because in his mind, all he needs to say is like one or two sentences and he's done. But he knows he's got a full 2 minutes to take up, so he just keeps rambling.
That's true.
I mean, there's nothing better than just to be succinct and say yes, no, or I'm going to elect, or excuse me, I'm going to nominate a Supreme Court justice that is going to interpret it based upon the Constitution. I'm done. That's it. Period.
I think he's looking at spreading it out, and he's trying to come up with something, because he knows that when it's her turn to talk, she's going to ramble on and have all these little buzzwords from her side. I think he knows it. And let's face it, did he have those little buzzwords a couple years back? And being the guy in show business or whatnot, where he was maybe twisting it up just a tad like she's doing. She's twisting it up a lot.
Oh,
he probably knows what it's about.
In politics, that's called spin.
There you go.
She's throwing a lot of spin. She's like a DJ at a nightclub.
Yeah. And in a second, we're going to hear her spin it up again.
We now have about 10 minutes for an open discussion. I want to focus on two issues that, in fact, by the justices that you name, could end up changing the existing law of the land. First is one that you mentioned, Mr. Trump, and that is guns. Secretary Clinton, you said last year, and let me quote, "The Supreme Court is wrong on the Second Amendment." And now, in fact, in the 2008 Heller case, the court ruled that there is a constitutional right to bear arms, but a right that is reasonably limited. Those were the words of the judge, Antonin Scalia, who wrote the decision. What's wrong with that?
Well, first of all, I support the Second Amendment. I lived in Arkansas for 18 wonderful years. I represented upstate New York. I understand and respect the tradition of gun ownership. It goes back to the founding of our country. But I also believe that there can be and must be reasonable regulation. Because I support the Second Amendment doesn't mean...
Was there regulations for gun ownership in the Constitution? No.
...that I want people who shouldn't have guns to be able to threaten you, kill you or members of your family. And so when I think about what we need to do, we have 33,000 people a year who die from guns. I think we need comprehensive background checks, need to close the online loophole, close the gun show loophole. There's other matters that I think are sensible, that are the kind of reforms that would make a difference, that are not in any way conflicting with the Second Amendment. You mentioned the Heller decision, and what I was saying that you referenced, Chris, was that I disagreed with the way the court applied the Second Amendment in that case, because what the District of Columbia was trying to do was to protect toddlers from guns. And so they wanted people with guns to safely store them. And the court didn't accept that reasonable regulation, but they've accepted many others. So I see no conflict between saving people's lives and defending the Second Amendment.
Let me bring Mr. Trump in here. The bipartisan open debate coalition got millions of votes on questions to ask here, and this was, in fact, one of the top questions that...
I just want to say something about gun safety. I mean, if you can afford to buy a gun, you can afford to buy the means to make them safe. If that's got to be a gun safe, so be it, a little box, whatever it is, you got to have that in your plan. So the public needs to know. I mean, I know a lot of people who don't lock their stuff up, but if you have kids, you're taking the risk that something could happen. If you don't have little security locks on your triggers, whatever you want to do, you're taking a risk. So if they want to start selling all guns with a trigger that goes with it and then put a little disclosure in there, you sign, okay, but I don't know. This is kind of a little funny. You need to be responsible with your guns.
Well, correct. Certainly agree about being responsible.
But you don't need to be blaming everybody else. The whole thing, once again, blaming the whole macro population for people that make mistakes.
Yeah.
I mean,
in the Heller case that she keeps referring to is basically, she's referring to the fact that the District of Columbia government indicated that it would continue to use zoning ordinances to prevent firearms dealers from operating and selling to citizens that actually live in the district. And for years, it's been illegal to have a gun within the district at all. And if memory serves me correct, I think Heller the guy's name was Dick Heller, was an off-duty police officer, and basically he wanted to have a firearm at home for when he was off-duty for his own personal protection. So it's a matter of, for one, everybody has a right to defend themselves and defend their families and stuff, but it's a matter of, for him, obviously as a police officer, he's probably made some enemies that will probably want to take a swipe at him or a shot at him at home. So he wanted to even further protect himself by having a firearm at home. This was brought out about it. She keeps bringing up this one case, and there would have been better ones to have served her. So
they got. How will you ensure the Second Amendment is protected? You just heard Secretary Clinton's answer. Does she persuade you that while you may disagree on regulation, that in fact she supports a Second Amendment right to bear arms?
Well, the D.C. versus Heller decision was very strongly, and she was extremely angry about it. I watched. I mean, she was very, very angry when upheld. And Justice Scalia was so involved, and it was a well-crafted decision. But Hillary was extremely upset, extremely angry, and people that believe in the Second Amendment and believe in it very strongly were very upset with what she had to say.
Well, let me bring in.
Well, I was upset because, unfortunately, dozens of toddlers injure themselves, even kill people with guns, because, unfortunately, not everyone who has loaded guns in their homes takes appropriate precautions. But there's no doubt that I respect the Second Amendment, that I also believe there's an individual right to bear arms. That is not in conflict with sensible, common sense regulation. And, look, I understand that Donald's been strongly supported by the NRA. The gun lobby's on his side. They're running millions of dollars of ads against me. And I regret that, because what I would like to see is for people to come together and say, of course, we're going to protect and defend the Second Amendment, but we're going to do it in a way that tries to save some of these 33,000 lives that we lose every year.
And that 33,000 lives that she's talking about, she's failing to mention that the majority of those are from suicides.
And once again, she's trying to control. They're trying to control us. Gun safety should be paramount, and that's up to you. You can't tell everybody what to do all the time. You can't hold their hand forever. They got to do it on their own. And you notice she really likes the number 33,000. You notice that?
Yep, I recognize that too. It's
I
just
picked
a quick,
up on
easy
that
number. For one, the NRA, it has come out in full support of Donald Trump, and the NRA gives safety classes. They also give out trigger locks. I don't know, aside from the government making you lock up your firearms by standing there watching you, sending a representative to your home to stand there and watch you lock it up, there's nothing more that can be done. You cannot regulate human behavior.
Yeah, it's like you better put on your seatbelt. I mean,
how many people do you know still don't wear one?
I mean, and it is a law, but you can only do what you can do. You can't just hold their hand.
No.
Like the whole country's a teenager. We're adults.
Well, and that's exactly how I think. I shouldn't say I think. I feel. I feel like the left wants to do that. The left wants to treat us like we're either not smart enough or we're just teenagers and not mature enough to do what we're supposed to do. They don't look at it from a freedom standpoint. They look at it from a, well, you're not acting right standpoint. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. So you need to put on your seatbelt.
Yes, and Daddy. That's so funny.
Yes, Daddy. I put my seatbelt on.
That's so funny because, here they are, they're going to regulate and control these little issues. But when it comes to people having high standards for themselves, i.e. get jobs, take care of themselves, oh no, that's okay. We have a solution for that.
We'll take care of you, yeah. But that still fits that kind of mentality, if you think about it. Thing. Because if the left doesn't believe that we're intelligent or mature enough to wear a seatbelt, that they have to actually pass a law, and there again, it's my choice whether I want to or not. It's not just seatbelts, it's with motorcycle helmets. If I want the wind in my hair and I'm flying down the highway on a motorcycle and I want that freedom, then that's my choice. And if I have an accident and bump my head, then there again, it's my choice, and I'm going to have to pay the consequences, whether it be financially or physically. And so, but the government, from the left, they certainly seem to think, well, you're just not smart enough or mature enough, so we're going to regulate you and pass these laws to make sure you do it. And also, since you're not smart enough or mature enough, we're going to take care of you and give you welfare or food stamps, or we're going to help you get a job because you're just not capable.
Yep, and the ultimate thing is we're going to take it away from you.
Yes. It could all go away just real quick. Don't piss me off.
We'll just take the guns away. Forget it.
Yeah. Well, it's not just the guns. It could also be with your job or with your any other benefits. Oh, you want to do drugs? That's fine. You can do drugs. We all have done drugs at some point in our life, but great. Yeah, we're going to take your kids away. And your job, it's gone away too. So, but that's a whole nother discussion. I don't want to get too far down that line because I certainly differ with the conservatives as well.
Right.
Bring Mr. Trump back into that because, in fact, you oppose any limits on assault weapons, any limits on high-capacity mag.
All right, first off, let's define what an assault weapon is. Nobody ever seems to define it, but they always want to throw that out there. So if I beat you with a wet towel, is that going to be an assault towel? I mean, really, I could pick up my phone. Is it going to be an assault phone if I beat you with it? What makes it an assault firearm, assault weapon?
Well, I don't know. Maybe the deer on the other end told me that I can't shoot him with an AR-15. It's an assault weapon.
Really hate that. Is it because of looks? Oh, because it's got an extending stock and a scope on it. It's an assault weapon. Well, crap, I could do that with a handgun. Is that going to make it an assault weapon? Or is it just going to make it easier for me to use? I mean, come on. It's a tool like anything else.
I mean, there's so many guns. There's just hundreds and hundreds of different types of guns. And it always kind of made me laugh when, we go to war and they give us our M16 and, you're really wondering, why can't I have a different weapon? Why can't I have this one was made to the lowest bidder. I got a lot more options I want to take with me to kill other humans.
I know.
But
right?
I'll take this M16.
If you're going to ask me to kill, let me choose my weapon.
The round's kind of tiny, it kind of goes in, maybe goes right through, maybe bounces around a little,
I'll take
maybe,
M14.
But I don't know. I could think of some bigger rounds I want to kill a human with and that little thing. But hey, that's just my opinion.
No, and I don't subscribe to the theory that if I shoot one with an M16, and then it takes two others to carry him off the battlefield, so I've effectively removed 3 bodies from the battlefield. I'd rather just shoot to kill and have it over with.
I know.
And
that's why they're starting to bring back the 1911 over the 9mm. That's starting to happen.
Sure.
Now.
I'd like to see the the M14 brought back.
Or at least that size round, right?
Yes. Let's kill him and be done with it. In the whole discussion,
track.
we are. Let's return.
Magazines, you support a national right to carry law. Why, sir?
Well, let me just tell you before we go any further, in Chicago, which has the toughest gun laws in the United States, probably you could say by far, they have more gun violence than any other city. So we have the toughest laws, and you have tremendous gun violence. I am a very strong supporter of the Second Amendment, and I don't know if Hillary was saying it in a sarcastic manner, but I'm very proud to have the endorsement of the NRA, and it's the earliest endorsement they've ever given to anybody who ran for president. So I'm very honored by all of that. We are going to appoint justices. This is the best way to help the Second Amendment. We are going to appoint justices that will feel very strongly about the Second Amendment, that will not do damage to the Second Amendment.
Well, let's pick up on another issue which divides you and the justices that whoever ends up winning this election appoints could have a dramatic effect there, and that's the issue of abortion.
Right.
Mr. Trump, you're pro-life, but I want to ask you specifically, do you want the court, including the justices that you will name, to overturn Roe v. Wade, which includes, in fact, states a woman's right to abortion?
Well, if that would happen, because I am pro-life and I will be appointing pro-life judges, I would think that will go back to the individual states.
But I'm asking you specifically, would you like
to... If they overturned it, it'll go back to the states.
But what I'm asking you, sir, is do you want to see the court overturn? You just said you want to see the court protect
how big
the Second
her eyes
Amendment.
are.
Do you want to see the court overturn?
They bulged out of that answer.
You mean how beady they are?
Well, no, if you were watching, Chris Wallace is trying to nail him down to answer, yes, I want to see pro-life win.
Right.
The pro-life is for another episode, but I'm a pro-life supporter. I believe that we should not commit murder. So I just leave it at that. But for her, and she's listening to Chris Wallace trying to nail down a direct answer from Trump, her eyes are getting bigger and bigger each time Chris re-asks that question. It's kind of odd, but we've seen that so far this whole election cycle. When the balloons dropped at the Democratic National Committee, when they announced she officially recognized and it was the ending of the committee, they dropped all those balloons. Her eyes lit up. She was amazed. And it's almost not quite to that extent by far, but it's definitely an exaggerated eyeball look. So it's just strange behavior.
I can't really understand why the Democrats are so big on the right to choose to end a life. This topic, for me, I like to stay away from it because to me, this begins to mess with the real issues that affect the people. And I don't know. I know it's important. I know we got to go over it and talk about it.
Yeah, I want to devote a whole issue to it.
I'm just kind of torn on this one. I don't know. But the way that they're so bent on letting you kill that little fetus all the time, or it's just got to happen. I don't know. I almost wish we'd kind of stay away from it so we could focus on other things.
Yeah, but there's millions of babies a year just in America that are being aborted, so it's crazy. So
Right.
All right, let's continue.
Justice is on. That's really what's going to be. Will happen, and that'll happen automatically, in my opinion, because I am putting pro-life justices on the court. I will say this: it will go back to the states, and the states will then make a determination.
Secretary Clinton.
Well, I strongly support Roe v. Wade, which guarantees a constitutional right to a woman to make the most intimate, most difficult in many cases, decisions about her health care that one can imagine. And in this case, it's not only about Roe v. Wade. It is about what's happening right now.
You gonna throw that out there one more time, Hillary?
So many states
Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade.
Very
let's talk about this real quick.
regulations on women.
You know, she doesn't even. The individual woman that was the subject of Roe v. Wade doesn't even support it anymore. She's actually come out against it. She really regrets it.
And you know what's funny about this is that they talk about constitutional right. The founding fathers did not put this clause in there, right? They did not talk about abortion. Am I right?
No, they didn't. There was not even.
They did not talk about
concept.
this. This is something we created, and now we're talking about it being a constitutional right. This is new. This is fairly new, and they're just going to concentrate on it. So the founding fathers had no inclination of talking about this personal medical issue. This is not what they were bringing up.
The actual decision wasn't so much on the fact that you're allowed, from a constitutional standpoint, to abort pregnancy. It was asserted that it was because of the right of privacy. You know, the 14th Amendment, concept of personal liberty and restrictions. So the argument is that who is the government to get involved in your privacy between you and your doctor as to what medical procedures are done?
Oh.
Yeah. So that's where the Supreme Court came down on the decision to allow it to happen, is because of that intrusion of privacy between the government and you and your doctor. And so, and that's fine. I'll agree with that to some extent. However, when it comes to murdering a child, well, she's not a child yet, so I should retract that and make it murdering a human life, because it's still alive and it is a human. You know, it's got human DNA from the get-go. Then it's a whole other ballgame. So, in other words, let's flip it a little bit. And I know we're getting sidetracked, but if I took my child in and I'm having a private discussion that the government, based upon this court decision, can't get involved in, and I choose to end the life of my child, and I can foresee this even coming at some point because the child is disabled in some way, then if my doctor and I make this decision to murder the child, it's still going to be okay with people. Really, that's a huge leap, but I think some on the left are already making that leap.
I got a question. I don't even know. I never researched it. Can somebody have an abortion and that person eventually kills themselves from the guilt and can't deal with it? I've never read if that's a statistic, never heard of it.
Oh, I've heard of it.
This could cause serious psychological issues inside your mind.
There's a lot of guilt with a lot of women that have had abortions. Now, some wave it off and proudly display that they've had a number of abortions. And I can't think of any one celebrity right now, but I've heard of them. I may be wrong. I'll have to look at this a little bit longer. But I think a couple of them have come out, like Kathy Griffin or Griffith or whatever her name is. I think she's came out and said that she's had some abortions and things like that. And they're looking at it and using it as a form of birth control, which is, in my mind, even worse. It's just insane that they would use it as a form of birth control. But some of them do wear that almost like a walking billboard, that they're proud of their decision. But for the most part, do some research sometime when you have a little bit more time, and you'll see that there's a lot of guilt with women that have had abortions. In fact, because of that, that's why they've added it to part of the services with Planned Parenthood and some of the other clinics, is that you'll get some counseling beforehand to kind of get a gauge of your own mental and emotional strength, and then even it's available afterward.
I think I'd have a super hard time with it. Doing it just because, if it were my life's in danger. Okay, I completely get it. But just because, I don't know if that doesn't sound like I could do it.
Well, there's a lot of arguments, for it. I don't think any of them, other than one, holds weight, and that would be for the life of the woman carrying the child. So
yeah, all right. Well, I think we're getting sidetracked
those are
anyway.
like 1%, and we are getting sidetracked. So let's get back.
Okay.
That block them from exercising that choice to the extent that they are defunding Planned Parenthood, which, of course, provides all kinds of cancer screenings and other benefits for women in our country. Donald S. said he's in favor of defunding Planned Parenthood. He even supported shutting the government down to defund Planned Parenthood. I will defend Planned Parenthood.
Such a nasty woman.
I will defend Roe v. Wade, and I will defend women's rights to make their own health care decisions.
Secretary,
and we have come too far to have
Roe v. Wade, that's a call to action,
now.
right?
And indeed,
yeah,
he said
for them
women
it is.
should be punished.
I bet she
There
said
should
it
be
5
some
times
form
already.
of punishment for women who obtain abortions, and I could just not be more opposed to that kind of thinking.
I'm going to
go to the store and obtain an abortion.
I want to ask you, Secretary Clinton, I want to explore how far you believe the right to abortion goes. You have been quoted as saying
She's
that
standing weird.
the fetus has no constitutional rights. You also voted against a ban on late-term partial birth abortions. Why?
Because Roe v. Wade very clearly sets out that there can be regulations on abortion so long as the life and the health of the mother are taken into account. And when I voted as a senator, I did not think that that was the case. The kinds of cases that fall at the end of pregnancy are often the most heartbreaking, painful decisions for families to make. I have met with women who, toward the end of their pregnancy, get the worst news one could get, that their health is in jeopardy if they continue to carry to term, or that something terrible has happened or just been discovered about the pregnancy. I do not think the United States government should be stepping in and making those most personal of decisions. So you can regulate, if you are doing so, with the life and the health of the mother taken into account.
Mr. Trump, your reaction, and particularly...
Just one comment. I mean, Hillary actually said, I do not think the United States government needs to be in this one. Wow.
Yeah.
Is that a first?
After clearly stating for the last 5 minutes that she believes that they should.
Interesting.
I mean, the whole basis behind it is that the government should be involved in making a decision.
It's a statement of convenience.
It is. She's well scripted, well prepared.
Yep.
So
on this issue of late-term partial birth
Well,
abortion.
I think it's terrible. If you go with what Hillary is saying, in the 9th month, you can take the baby and rip the baby out of the womb of the mother just prior to the birth of the...
Okay, so let me clarify on that. I think he really made a mistake by stating all the way up to the 9th month. He should have left it at the 8th month, or close, or even clarified saying up to the 8th month and almost to the 9th month. Because you're not going to make a good argument saying up to, into the 9th month, because at that point the baby could be born. And I think that's what the argument he's trying to make is that this is a baby that could be viable on its own. And this is that word viable is where the liberals always want to hinge the argument. Well, if we remove the baby at 3 months, it's not going to be viable to die. Yeah, that's true. But once you get a little bit older, the child can, granted with some assistance. But that's the argument that they make, is that we shouldn't render that assistance. It would die, and they don't really rip them out. Have you ever done research on abortion? They don't rip the child out.
Yeah, but
they do well, the reason why they call it a partial birth is that they allow the birth. What they do is they induce the woman into labor. Okay. And so by doing so, she's going into labor early, and then they stop the labor so that when the child is halfway in and halfway out, and they let the baby die, and then they deliver the rest of it.
Well, there's multiple ways that they can, quote unquote, kill the baby or whatever. But if, when we listen to this a little bit longer, I was listening to see where at one point she would have a little empathy for the child or whatever. And
no, they can't vote. There's no empathy there.
When he said 9 months, all the way to term, I was waiting for her to finally go, okay, well, sometimes there might be a time where I don't think it would be right. But no, she just sat there like a stone. and she just let it go all the way. Nope. I believe she has the right to choose all the way. I mean, to the very, very end. And I got this picture in my mind of this fully created human being, and yet you're going to kill it. I mean, that I got like this pain in my gut. It was just disgusting. And I just left it at that. They moved on to the next subject, and I just kind of went, wow, that's an interesting picture to have in my head.
Yeah.
The baby. Now, you can say that that's okay, and Hillary can say
right here.
that's okay, but it's not okay with me. Because based on what she's saying and based on where she's going and where she's been, you can take the baby and rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month on the final day. And that's not acceptable.
Well, that is not what happens in these cases. And using that kind of scare rhetoric is just terribly unfortunate.
Another spin word.
You should meet with some of the women that I've met with, women I've known over the course
But she
of my
never
life.
says
This is
no.
one of the
maybe not
worst
this time.
possible choices
Yeah.
that any woman and her family
It goes
has
back to
make.
the emotion. It's such a bad thing that the woman has to make this decision.
she has
I
to
do
keep
not
that
believe-
baby, and she can't afford it.
Yeah, we can't feed another mouth. And I know that
Well,
there's
it's-
other circumstances, but it's that's having a child is a roll of the dice anyway. You're not gonna get the perfect child. You're not gonna get the red hair or the blonde hair or the black hair or brown hair. You get what nature gives you or God gives you, depending on how you look at it. And that's the problem. Is a lot of them don't believe that. They want this perfect child. It doesn't have all its fingers and toes, or it does sometimes get born with some sort of issues, and that's just the hand that you're dealt. But that's not fair. And so Democrats always like to make everything fair and fix things.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the teenager that gets pregnant too, and you just got to get rid of the kid. You got to kill it.
There's a lot of willing parents out there that want to adopt. There's other choices and other solutions.
Yep.
The government should be making it. I've had the great honor
The government
of
shouldn't be
traveling
making
across
it
the
again.
world
There
on behalf
again.
of our country. I've been to countries where governments either forced women to have abortions like they used to do in China, or forced women to bear children like they used to do in Romania. And
She
I
likes
can tell you,
China.
the government has no business
Yeah.
in the decisions that women make with their families in accordance with their faith, with medical advice. And I will stand.
I don't know of a single faith out there that advocates for abortion. That's funny she throws that out there because there's not a single one out
Satanism?
there. Maybe. I mean, I don't really consider that a faith, but, I guess it is for some.
Right.
Stand up for that right.
All right. But just briefly, I want to move on
And
to another
honestly,
segment.
nobody has business doing what I just said, doing that as late as 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 days prior to birth. Nobody has that.
All right.
And
let's
she
move
still
on
doesn't
to the
dispel
subject
that.
of immigration.
Amazing.
And
No, she's, like you said, she's stone-faced.
Yeah.
She's ready to move on.
Kill it
there is
whenever you
almost
want.
no issue that separates the two of you more than the issue of immigration. Actually, there are a lot of issues that separate the two of you. Mr. Trump,
Quit
you want to
laughing.
build
I
a
hate
wall.
that laugh.
Secretary Clinton, you have offered no specific plan for how you want to secure our southern border. Mr. Trump, you are calling for major deportations. Secretary Clinton, you say that within your first 100 days as president, you're going to offer a package that includes a pathway to citizenship. The question really is, why are you right and your opponent wrong? Mr. Trump?
Did you see the two of them with their heads bobbing? Both of them on this question. Their heads are bobbing up and down like bobblehead dolls on the dashboard of a car. I mean, literally, I wish I had the technical capabilities, because I would take just this clip and make a GIF out of it and just be my answer for everything. Do you want to go eat at fast food? Yes, and just bobblehead it, just,
Well, I love her collarless shirt, her samurai look. I mean, it's great.
It's something a dictator would wear. I think Kim Jong-il has this in his closet.
Yeah, with the big raincoat buttons. Love that. And he's got an American pin on his lapel, and she doesn't have anything like that.
No, she doesn't ever wear anything on her lapel at all.
Jeez, man.
Trump, you go first in this segment. You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, she wants to give amnesty, which is a disaster and very unfair to all of the people that are waiting in line for many, many years.
True.
We need strong borders. In the audience tonight, we have 4 mothers of, these are unbelievable people that I've gotten to know over a period of years, whose children have been killed, brutally killed by people that came into the country illegally. You have thousands of mothers and fathers and relatives
It would have benefited him if he would have thrown out an actual statistic instead of just saying, of all the thousands and many of people that have been affected by illegal immigration, it would have been better if he would have actually given a stat.
all over the country.
At least you didn't say thousands and thousands and thousands.
It's a huge, huge problem.
It's millions and millions.
Yeah,
gotta pick on him about that.
This is what gets him in trouble. Is he never has specifics, and I think sometimes that's his choice. It's easier just to say it in the way he says it in his mind than it is to give specifics. Because he's smart enough to remember the specifics. I mean, we played in an earlier episode where he's talking very articulate and giving actual numbers and figures for a building and Trump Tower, and right. I don't think his mental capacity is diminished at any point. I just think he chooses to talk to the audience this way. Yeah, I think this is a tactic, and he's actually kind of really smart because he's gotten as far as he's gotten. So whatever we're saying is probably, maybe not that important, right? Yeah.
They're coming in illegally. Drugs are pouring in through the border. We have no country if we have no border. Hillary wants to give amnesty. She wants to have open borders. The border secure, as you know, the Border Patrol agents, 16,500 plus ICE last week, endorsed me. First time they've ever endorsed a candidate.
And that's incorrect. ICE as an organization didn't. ICE the union did. And it's funny that he throws that figure out, but he wouldn't throw out figures and stats for actually what the crime percentage is from illegal immigrants.
It means their job is tougher, but they know what's going on. They know it better than anybody. They want strong borders. They feel we have to have strong borders. I was up in New Hampshire the other day. The biggest complaint they have, it's with all of the problems going on in the world, many of the problems caused by Hillary Clinton and by Barack Obama, all of the problems, their single biggest problem is heroin that pours across our southern borders, just pouring and destroying their youth. It's poisoning the blood of their youth and plenty of other people.
See, that was a pretty interesting tactic he used there. He said by Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. So he's actually putting a face with the issue or the problem. A lot of mistakes he's had in the past is he never put a face to it. He always just said the Democrats or this administration. That's not putting a face, and so it doesn't appeal to people if you don't put a face to the problem.
And you know what I think, too, is the fact that, they're always talking about immigration. All these people are talking about immigration. The major problem we have is that we don't have enough jobs in this country already for the people that are here. If we have a huge percentage of people not even working, now you want to bring more people in here. I mean, we don't even have the work to cover it or anything. So don't have enough taxes to cover all the money everybody needs. Now you want to bring more people here. I mean, this is more serious than just, feeling empathetic for people that have to get out of some country to come to ours. We can't support economically. We can't support more people. So this is, I don't know why they don't just say it like that.
Yeah, and they're not coming for manufacturing jobs because we've lost over 700,000 manufacturing jobs, and I think just in the last 4 years. But I may be slightly wrong on the timeline, but it's certainly since the Obama administration's been in office, and that's a lot of jobs. I don't know what jobs they're coming here for. There's only so many landscape jobs and agricultural jobs to pick lettuce, that are here.
Construction.
Yeah, right. So if they're coming here to do those type of jobs, especially the construction, which has already been hard hit. Yeah, it's hard hit since the 2008 economic recession, and I know home sales and new home building has gone up slightly, a little bit here and there, but it's not gone up enough to support what we currently have, much less any additional imports. All that means is it's going to be cheaper. It's going to be cheaper to build it.
So the only reason she wants them here is for votes. That's pandering once again.
Yeah, and those that come here illegal are not going to be paying taxes. So even if they are making it a cheaper product because the labor is cheaper, it's still not going to be a revenue source for the government. All it's going to be is for votes.
Yep.
We have to have strong borders. We have to keep the drugs out of our country. Right now, we're getting the drugs, they're getting the cash. We need strong borders. We need we cannot give amnesty. Now, I want to build the wall. We need the wall. The Border Patrol, ICE, they all want the wall. We stop the drugs.
Walter White would hate this conversation right about now.
My first acts would be to get all of the drug lords, all of the bad ones. We have some bad people in this country.
Although Rick of The Walking Dead would love this conversation. Let's put the walls up.
That have to go out. We're going to get them out. We're going to secure the border. And once the border is secured, at a later date, we'll make a determination as to the rest. But we have some bad hombres here, and we're going to get them out.
What a great word.
Mr.
Bad
Trump, thank
hombres.
you. Same question
Yeah.
to you, Secretary Clinton. Basically,
He likes
why are
Spanish.
you right and Mr. Trump is wrong?
Well, as he was talking, I was thinking about a
No
young
bueno
girl I met
hombres.
here in Las Vegas, Carla.
He's going to hire him next week
very
anyway,
worried
so come on.
that her parents might be deported because she was born in this country, but they were not. They work hard. They do everything they can to
She's
give
a
her
citizen.
a good
That's not
life.
an issue.
And you're right. I don't want to rip families apart. I don't want to
They
be
shouldn't have
sending
broken
parents
the
away
law.
from children.
Pandering.
You know, we can't put this person in prison because they broke the law because we don't want to rip the family apart. Oh, you had a DUI and you committed manslaughter because you were drinking? Oh, we can't put you in jail now because we don't want to rip your family apart. I mean, come on. What kind of crap is this? I understand what she's trying to say, but at the same point, we have to have that rule of law. Either you broke it or you didn't. Are you here legally? No, then you broke the law. You need to go.
Children, I don't want to see the deportation force that Donald has talked about in action in our country.
Right
11
here is how
million
she can win the
undocumented
election,
people.
though.
They have 4 million
Oh, yeah.
American citizen children, 15 million people. He said
she's
as
got
recently
stats.
as a few
Yep.
weeks ago in
See,
Phoenix
that's a plus for her against him.
Right.
He really should throw a few more than what he already has. It would really benefit him a lot. People want to know those numbers. Back up your argument.
every undocumented person would be subject to deportation.
So
Now, here's what
pause this
that
for a
means.
second.
Oh, undocumented. I hate that term. They're not here legally. It's not undocumented.
Well, maybe what they ought to do, and it doesn't matter who you're affiliated with, maybe what they ought to do is talk about your value to the United States economy. Let's say you're illegal. Let's say the first thing we do is put out ideals and say, look, what do you have to offer? Because that's what we want. We want you to have to offer something. If you have some Hispanic woman that, let's say, taking care of older people, she's bringing in $6,000 a month at some home or whatever, there's an opportunity right there to get more tax money for the economy. So case-by-case basis, if you're not committing any crimes, I don't know the full answer to this stuff, but common sense, let's get realistic. But you know what's happening. They're just going to pander for votes here. They're one way or the other. This is going to be about the pandering so that she can win.
Yeah.
So she can't come up with a common sense. She won't do it.
Well, common sense is uncommon. So,
Yep.
As far as your answer goes, I don't have a definitive answer as well. I just know that if I have a flood in my house, the first thing I want to do is shut the water off. And then after that, I want to start cleaning it up.
Right.
And for me, immigration is just as simple. Shut the flow off, and then we can start cleaning up. And then if we want to allow it in, back to the flood instance, if I want water in my house, I want it in my bathtub, I want it in my water glass. I want it in the sink so I can shave and et cetera. It's the same thing. If we have a need for the immigrants here, if there is a place for them, based upon, I'll even go so far as to what you're saying. If there's a need for them and there's a way for them to be valuable, to me and my household, I can hire them as a maid or as a nanny or X whatever position within society, then we can allow that flow. But it's based upon that need, and it's also based upon whether we have a space for them. And
But their other argument is that they don't have the opportunity in the country that they are living in.
Then they need to be the force in their own country. I mean,
Right.
that's the problem. You can't export problems or import in our case. Mexico's not going to solve its problems by getting rid of its citizens over to the United States. And you could say that about any other country. I'd just pick Mexico because it's our closest one. And it could easily be from any other country. I mean, take the Syria issue. I don't remember if this even gets brought up. I'm sure it does. But, bringing Syrian immigrants here, or refugees as the left like to call them, it's not going to fix the problem in Syria. And it's not our job to fix that problem. But if they want to fix the problem, then they need to fix it there. I don't go over to your house with the problem and say, hey, let's fix this problem.
Right.
If I got a rabid dog in my yard, do I take it to your house and say, oh, let's work on this? No, that's not how that works. Fix it at your own house.
Yep.
It means you would have to have a massive law enforcement presence where law enforcement officers
really.
would be going school to school,
No,
home to
he's
home.
not talking about going
business
school to school and home, business to business. All he's saying is that if they're illegal, if they get pulled over, then we deport them. If they're getting pulled over for a speeding ticket, or in the case that he brought up, where there's been some sort of additional crime, deport them. They can't even do that right now. They're not allowed to ask if you're here legally, which is odd, because if you get pulled over, what's the first thing the officer wants to do? Identify who you are. If you're at a home and they get called for a domestic, first thing you want to do is they want to identify everybody. Why? For they want to identify that they're supposed to be belonging in that home, and so they can fulfill the report on who it is that were involved. You've got to be able to identify yourself. And if you're not here and you're not a citizen, then you need to go. Plain and simple. It's not hard. And a lot of them, once they start doing these crackdowns, just simple identification and simple deportation upon the commission of another crime, a lot of them will self-deport because they don't want to run that risk of an additional charge.
Rounding up people who are undocumented, and we would then have to put them on trains, on buses to get them out of our country. I think that is an idea that is not in keeping with who we are as a nation. I think it's an idea that would rip our country apart. I have been
more
for
so than
border
it already
security
is.
For years. I voted for border security in the United States Senate. And my comprehensive immigration reform plan, of course, includes border security. But I want to put our resources where I think they're most needed, getting rid of any violent person.
Pause that for a second.
Anybody.
Yeah.
So I wonder when she talks about border security, what does she mean? You know, they never talk about that. The Democrats are never saying what they mean by supported border security. Is it beefing up what we've already got? What is it? I mean, they're saying it, but then again, they're not talking about it.
I've researched it. When she said she was for border security, it was for offense.
Offense.
Yes, the cases that I've been able to find where it was specifically talking about her and what she supported, it was her support of a fence along the border. An offense is not going to stop anybody. You can hop a fence, so easy, or go.
Well,
under
they've got a
fence
fence between Mexicali and Calexico all the way across. I've seen it.
Oh yeah, I have to.
It's not a wall or what. I mean, I guess anything that would be a deterrent that could make the process slower to get by it could give the Border Patrol more time to take care of it,
Well, depending on how staffed that is.
Right. They're always they're pandering like crazy right now. She says it one time right now, oh, I supported border security. Okay, now Trump should have jumped on that. He should have said, okay, now that you said that, please tell me what you mean by border security. Define that.
Yep.
In 30 seconds.
Yeah, he missed a golden opportunity here.
Yeah.
And it would have put it all back on her and her statement.
Right.
Who should be deported, we should deport them. When it comes to the wall that Donald talks about building, he went to Mexico. He had a meeting with the Mexican president, didn't even raise it. He choked. And then got into a Twitter war because the Mexican president said, we're not paying for that wall. So I think we are both a nation of immigrants and we are a nation of laws, and that we can.
Let's discuss that method of payment.
Accordingly.
Yeah.
I mean, what about toll roads in America? How long have we seen a toll road where you got to pay upwards of $4.50 every time you cross it, one way, the other way, maybe monthly payments, annual payments, and that stuff? I've seen it like 10 years long, whatever. All that stuff is designed to pay for that toll road.
Correct.
There's other ways.
Instead of taxing everyone within a county or within a state for that payment to have built that road or a bridge or whatever, they're going to tax the people that use it because those are the ones that are receiving the most benefit from it. Or, not necessarily the most, but the benefit from it. So that would make the most sense. And that's why tolls have been put into place all these years. If you're going to use it, then you're going to pay for it. Let's not make other people use it that don't pay for it. And, let's not drift into another argument, but it's the same argument here in most counties where they're taxing everyone for the school system. But why? People that don't have kids are still paying for it. Are they going to have a direct benefit from it? The reasoning is because within the school district has to abide by the federal laws, and because the federal government took over the school system, they wanted to make it so that every school is, they want to say equal, but we know that they're not. Obviously, the school districts where their parents are wealthy are going to donate additional funds on top of what they receive federally and locally. But that's the whole premise behind it, is that all schools are equal, so that they tax everyone. So everybody benefits from the increased education of the citizenry. But that's not the case. If we were to flip it back to the way it used to be, where in a small town that has a large, financially well-off group of citizens that could support the school system, it's going to be a better school than the one that's going to be in a financially depressed city. But that's part of the benefits. That's one of the benefits of having wealth or having financial means. And that's a motivating factor. Okay, you grow up and you're of low income. work your butt off, get an education, or pick up a trade skill and put in those extra hours. Do what you have to do to overcome. That's motivation so that you can provide for your children.
I just think it's funny that he never talks about the methods of payment. Everyone says, "Oh, they're not going to write a check."
He has a few
No, they're
times.
not going to write a check.
No, you know how they're going to pay for it? It's going to be with tariffs.
Yep.
And it's going to be other ways.
There's going to be other ways, and he doesn't talk about the other ways. They're inadvertently going to pay. It's not that they're going to write a check. They're going to inadvertently pay. Even American companies that have camped out over in Mexico for 30 plus years, they're gonna pay.
Well,
they're only paying their employees one part of every 10. We can have one American employee over here to 10 Mexican employees over there. That's why they went there, so they can take advantage of the economic differences. So now they need to help out and fix our problems here, because they left and they took our jobs away.
Well, sure, and that's what his argument has been, is that, you could have a union employee building a car here in the United States for $30 an hour, but you could build that same car in Mexico for
$3 an hour.
Yeah, $3 an hour or something to that extent. I don't know what the exact number is, but I know it's probably about in that ballpark.
It's about 10 to 1.
Yeah, it's much more cost effective. And so what he's saying is that, okay, so you want to bring that car back into the United States, then I'm going to put a tariff on it, so that no matter what, it's going to end up costing the same as if you made it here, so why not make it here?
Right.
And this is a big topic when it comes to the free markets. And I understand what he's trying to say is, for one, it allows us to, instead of the shareholders of the company making, more of a profit, or potentially making more of a profit, then the profit is being shared with the employees. But I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case. I do know that we do need a manufacturing base back here in the United States. If we broke out into a war right now, we don't even have the manufacturing to repair any of our tanks, much less build any more. So it better not be a large conflict.
We are exporting all our raw materials out to have them come back as imports, those final products. Long Beach Harbor does that all the time.
And they're not even as quality of a product as what could be made here in the United States. Mm-hmm. For a long time, the United States was known as the quality builder, right. And we're not anymore because we don't build anything.
And that's why I'm introducing comprehensive immigration reform within the first 100 days with a path to citizenship.
Thank you, Secretary Clinton. I want to follow up.
I think I should respond to the. First of all, I had a very good meeting with the president of Mexico. Very nice man. We will be doing very much better with Mexico on trade deals, believe me. The NAFTA deal signed by her husband is one of the worst deals ever made of any kind, signed by anybody. It's a disaster. Hillary Clinton wanted the wall. Hillary Clinton fought for the wall in 2006 or thereabouts. Now, she never gets anything done, so naturally the wall wasn't built. But Hillary Clinton wanted the wall.
Well, we
are a country of laws. And by the way,
I'd like to hear from. I'd like to hear from Secretary Clinton.
I voted for border security, and there are some limited places where that was appropriate. There also is necessarily going to be new technology and how best to deploy that. But it is clear when you look at what Donald has been proposing. He started his campaign bashing immigrants, calling Mexican immigrants rapists and criminals and drug dealers, that he
Stop right there.
Yeah, and he didn't say that. He said the criminals that are here. He was focusing it on the group of criminals, not on every immigrant.
Yeah, though that's their tactic all the time. That's got to be an Alinsky rule, right? There's got to be a rule in there on them constantly taking stuff out of context and making it a little tiny statement and making it broad like that. There's got to be an Alinsky rule on that one, because all the time, oh, he said that all Mexicans are rapists and criminals. No, he didn't. He said that they come over here. All the time they are here, as well as good people. Maybe he should say that too. Maybe he should say, and good people are here too.
Well, he has said that, but it gets buried on the news, and it gets buried when it's coming from the left. So
yeah, there you go.
It's just not true.
That's just always striking a nerve. She doesn't have a whole lot of things to go off of on her own cognizance and her own successes, so she's constantly got to pull this kind of stuff on him over and over.
Well, whether it's true or not, you're referencing the rules for radicals from Saul Alinsky. Rule number 4 is to make the enemy live up to their own book of rules. And so I don't think it's necessarily a true statement that that's what she's doing, is that she's making it, but she's taking things out of concept to make him live by that set of rules. He defines it or gives a speech about it. All you got to do is slightly twist the words a little bit and then play it back to them and make them justify that and live by that set of rules.
And have you noticed the little sneer on her face all the time when she's doing this kind of stuff? You can see it. It's almost like a competitive edge, like, oh, I think I've got him. You know, what she's saying isn't even valid, but that little sneer is there all the time when she's doing it.
And rule number 5 is to ridicule. That's considered their most potent weapon. So she's basically ridiculing him for this stance, and she's kind of being, I'm above you, sneer towards him, and it works quite a bit.
Yeah, I think they're all playing by these rules somewhat.
And then with rule number 6, rule number 6 is that a good tactic is one that your people enjoy. Her people that support her love the fact that she does this to him, that twists his words and plays it back on him and makes him live up to that every single time. So they're loving it.
Yeah. The problem is, I think he doesn't recognize what's going on half the time. I wish he understood more. He should start listening to our podcast.
He should, sure, right here, Chasing Issues.
We're going to contact them one way or the other.
What we should do to deal with immigrants. Now, what I am also arguing is that bringing undocumented immigrants out from the shadows, putting them into the formal economy, will be good, because then employers can't exploit them and undercut Americans' wages. And Donald knows a lot.
Employers can only exploit them because they're illegal. That's it.
Yeah, they hold it over their heads.
Yeah.
Used undocumented labor to build the Trump Tower. He underpaid undocumented workers, and when they complained, he basically said what a lot of employers do: you complain, I'll get you deported.
I love it when she talks about business.
Out of the shadows, get the economy working, and not let employers like Donald exploit undocumented workers, which hurts them but also hurts American workers.
Mr. Trump.
President Obama has moved millions of people out. Nobody knows about it. Nobody talks about it. But under Obama, millions of people have been moved out of this country. They've been deported. She doesn't want to say that, but that's what's happened, and that's what's happened big league. As far as moving these people out and moving, we either have a country or we don't. We're a country of laws. We either have a border or we don't.
Correct. And like Mike Savage always says, a culture is defined by its borders, language, and culture. And all three of those are being slowly eroded away.
Yeah, this is a tough subject, man. When you try and, the pros and the cons, the empathy, the laws. We are a country of laws. I wish we hadn't got to the stage that we're at now. That's the big problem is, once you've messed it up so bad for so long, how do you get out of this?
Yeah.
That's the game right there.
You slowly erase the border. You slowly change the language. And granted, I understand that there are a lot of immigrants from other countries that speak a different language. But the one thing that holds us together is the fact that we conduct business in English. That is the unofficial official language. If you're going to file any kind of paperwork, and slowly but surely you're starting to see, not only when you call into a call center, press 2 for Spanish, 1 for English, etc., but you're also starting to see that documentation at the government level. And so now you're going to have multiple copies of everything, where in general, 240-something years, we've had English as the defining language for all of our government contracts, etc. Now, our English, this is a little known fact that people don't know, that Noah Webster, when he set out to publish his Webster's Dictionary, he intentionally changed English pronunciation and spelling of words. Instead of being again, it's again. And he started removing U instead of being humor. Spelled O-U-R. He just took out the U and becomes O-R, H-U-M-O-R. He took the U out, and he did that for a lot of words. And the reason being is because we were already living with a language that we brought to the United States from England. He wanted to make the American English its own style. And so he changed it on purpose to define us even further by that language.
Well, I just wish that some leader would come along and fix this whole problem in a great way. Not like us, not black, not white, but gray. Yep. This immigration thing is gray, and it needs to be looked at with intelligence and case by case, but it needs to be looked at largely and dealt with, and it doesn't need to be super mean. It needs to hold people accountable. We need someone smart to come here and fix this.
Yeah, and let's hope he's going to find the right answers.
Yeah.
Now, you can come back in and you can become a citizen, but it's very unfair. We have millions of people that did it the right way. They're online, they're waiting. We're going to speed up the process, big league, because it's very inefficient.
Big league.
But they're
He says
online
that twice
and they're
now.
waiting to become citizens.
Yeah, what is this big
Very
league?
unfair.
Oh, it was a gun when I was a kid. I don't know about now.
It's this little league.
That somebody who runs across the border becomes a citizen. Under her plan, you have open borders. You would have a disaster on trade, and you will have a disaster with your open borders. But what she doesn't say is that President Obama has deported millions and millions of people just the way
Secretary
it is.
Clinton, I want to.
We will not have open borders.
Well, let me
that is a rank mischaracterization.
Secretary Clinton.
We will have secure borders, but we will also have reform. And this used to be a bipartisan issue.
Well, what does that mean?
The last president
Excuse
to
me.
sign
Yeah, what's the reform?
immigration reform, and George
What does
W.
this
Bush
mean?
supported it as well.
Secretary Clinton, I want to clear up your position on this issue because in a speech you gave to a Brazilian bank for which you were paid $225,000, we've learned from the
Pause that for a second.
that you said that
It's like she wants her cake and eat it too. I want to hear, what is the plan here? You want to let everybody in and make everybody legal and give them all the cookies, but you want reform and you want to protect the border and you want to deport people. You can't there's no stance here. This
No,
is
there's
just
not.
wishy-washy.
No, it is. It's wishy-washy, so.
this, and I want to quote, "My dream is a hemispheric common market with open trade and open borders." So that's
Thank
the
you.
question. That's the question. Please quiet everybody.
You made my point
Is
for me.
that your dream, open borders?
You know what
Well,
he's...
if you went on to read the rest of the sentence, I was talking about.
I do appreciate how both of them seem to have a sense of humor about
Yeah.
some of
energy
this.
Yeah.
with our neighbors than we trade with the rest of the world combined. And I do want us to have an electric
'Cause they were both
grid
at each other's
and
weddings.
energy
Hello.
system that crosses
Yeah.
borders. I think
What a
that will
joke.
be a great benefit to us. But you are very clearly quoting from WikiLeaks, and what's really important about WikiLeaks is that the Russian government has
Here we go,
engaged
the
in
Russians.
espionage against Americans. They have hacked American websites, American accounts of private people, of institutions. Then they have given that information to WikiLeaks for the purpose of putting it on the internet.
So it sounds like she's more worried about the fact that this information is illegally being put out there instead of what the
Right.
content of the information is.
Yeah, I really wish I could put on my uniform again and go over to Putin and drink some vodka and talk shop. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah. I don't think it's
they-
the Russians doing this, but it doesn't really matter. Why? Because if they're doing things and saying things that are illegal within those emails, then why is she more focused on the fact that it's being illegally distributed compared to her illegal acts?
well, she's a lawyer. I mean, she must know everything about law, right? So
Nah.
she's thinking about fruits of the poison tree and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
God.
This has come from the highest levels of the Russian government, clearly from Putin himself. In
Oh, Putin's an outstanding hacker now, apparently.
an effort,
Putin himself.
as 17 of our intelligence agencies have confirmed
And they have not. I looked at this right after watching this the first time when it was live, and it has not been confirmed by 17 different intelligence agencies.
Yeah, I'd like to. Can we put out facts on how many intelligence agencies there are?
Well, there's 17 at least, but they've
My
not
goodness.
come out and confirmed it. Oh, I could name a few. A lot of people don't understand just how many there are. But the thing about the intelligence committees or agencies, excuse me, not committees, but the agencies, is each one has a specific role. I think there needs to be some sort of streamlining within the intelligence community as a whole. It's crazy what they do. Each
Well,
branch
they
of
have
service
talked
has
about
its
how
own.
That's gotten better.
It has gotten better, and I hope it does continue to get better, but nobody knows for sure whether it's Russia or China or anybody else. In fact, even those intelligence communities, and I think there was only two, was the Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, and then, of course, the Department of Homeland Security have said that, quote, "We believe, based on the scope and sensitivity of the efforts, that only Russia's senior-most officials could have authorized these activities." But they don't specifically name, Russian President Vladimir Putin, and they don't know for sure, like I said, that if it's even Russia or China or whoever. It's just one of those. So It's only because, look, who's going to benefit from it?
To influence our election. So I actually think the most important question of this evening, Chris, is finally, will Donald Trump admit and condemn that the Russians are doing this and make it clear
He can't admit something he doesn't know.
that he will not have the help of Putin in this election, that he rejects Russian espionage against Americans, which he actually encouraged in the past. Those are the questions we need answered. We've never had
we know
anything
what's coming
like this
now. I'm
happen
waiting
in
for
any
it.
of our
Oh, yeah.
elections before.
That was a great pivot off the fact that she wants open borders, okay? How did we get off the Putin?
He is right, and I'm really surprised he picked up on that, because in the past debates he wasn't quite so sharp to address that. And this is a great point for him to point out that she did pivot completely away from answering that question.
All right, look.
Hold on.
No,
Hold on. Wait. Hold on, folks, because this is going to end up getting out of control. Let's try to keep it quiet for the candidates and for the American people.
And I love that Chris Wallace did that, because in the other debates, the moderators did not give such a forceful, not that it wasn't, he was polite, but if you watch the debate, he turned and looked at the audience, and I thought for a minute he was going to get up and smack somebody and tell them, look, let's keep it, keep it down, let's keep it quiet, and let the candidates flesh it out.
Right.
So just to finish on the borders,
Yes.
she wants open borders. People are going to pour into our country. People are going to come in from Syria. She wants 550% more people than
There she
Barack
goes, smiling
Obama. And he
again.
has
I hate
thousands
that
and
stupid
thousands
little
of people who have
grin.
no idea where
Yeah,
they come
she grins every single time that she's uncomfortable with an answer that he gives.
Yeah, then
You
she
notice
rolls
that?
her
That's
eyes.
her tell. Yeah, her tell when she's uncomfortable because he's nailing down a point or he's putting her into a specific area that she's uncomfortable with, that she doesn't either have an answer for or she's not prepared for, or he's summarizing what she stated and putting out there a little bit better, more articulate. It's not some 10-minute rant that she's giving out to spin it in whatever direction that she wants to spin it. She smiles and rolls her eyes. It's her tell.
from. And you see, we are going to stop radical Islamic terrorism in this country. She won't even mention the words, and neither will President Obama. So I just want to tell you, she wants open borders. Now we can talk about Putin. I don't know Putin. He said nice things about me. If we got along well, that would be good. If Russia and the United States got
Putin
along
probably
well and went
respects his
after ISIS,
success level.
that would
Oh,
be good.
yeah.
He has no respect
The
for
fact
her.
that he speaks
He
so
has no
unabashed.
respect for our president.
And he's a billionaire.
And I'll tell you what,
Probably
we're
loves
in
it.
very serious trouble.
It's in the
Because
same
we
club
have
as Putin.
a country with
Yep.
tremendous numbers of nuclear warheads, 1,800, by the way, where they expanded and we didn't.
Numbers.
There we go.
1,800 nuclear warheads, and she's playing chicken. Look, Putin,
wait,
from everything I see, has no respect for this person.
Well, that's because he
I love it. He had to stop himself. This person. I love to have
Or he
heard
said
his.
something through he's going to regret.
Well, yeah, I'd love to have heard his locker room talk version of this woman or this person.
Yeah.
I wonder if he'd have put the Tic Tacs in just then.
Oh, God. Oh.
He'd rather have a puppet as president of
No
the United
puppet,
States.
no puppet.
And
No
it's pretty
puppet.
Clear,
You're the puppet.
It's
You're
pretty
the
clear
puppet.
you won't admit.
No, you're
that
the-
I thought he was
Russians
gonna hit her.
have engaged-
I thought this was going to be the end of the debate right here. He's going to go over there, push the podium over.
Yeah, there
and she'll be
again.
like, okay, I'm done. I won. Bye.
She's tormenting him.
Right.
And it's effective.
Yeah.
This is where he starts falling, and he falls for her bait every time.
Yep. Hook, line, and sinker.
in cyber attacks against the United States of America, that you encouraged espionage against our people, that you are willing to spout the Putin line, sign up for his wish list, break up NATO, do whatever he wants to do, and that you continue to get help from him because he has a very clear favorite in this race. So I think that this is such an unprecedented situation. We've never had a foreign government trying to interfere in our election. We have 17
That we know
intelligence
of.
agencies,
Correct.
civilian and military, who have all concluded that these espionage attacks, these cyber attacks, come from the highest levels of the Kremlin, and they are designed to influence our election. I find that deeply disturbing.
Secretary.
And there again, no one has any idea whether it's coming from Russia or China or anybody else.
Let's just take that reset button back over there, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Fix everything, you know?
Sure. All right, so thank you for joining us, and this is running really long. At this point, we're going to go ahead and wrap everything up. We do appreciate you listening and sticking around for the third presidential debate. So join us for our next episode when we continue discussing the third presidential debate. And, of course, if you like our program, please check out more stories and like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, or simply share us the next time you have a conversation. With that, Rob, do you have any final words?
Yeah, so I think we should be taking these episodes as helping you with your decision on who to vote for. We're obviously pro-conservative is what we are, and from what they say and how we commentate, we're hoping that we can all come to a kind of a conclusion as to who seems to be the most worthy out of this whole crazy debate, this whole election period. That's about all I got on that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that. And stay tuned for episode 2 of the third presidential debate wrap-up. Thank you for joining us in this episode of the third presidential debate. Stick around for our next episode where we'll continue discussing with episode 2 of the third presidential debate. And if you like our program, please check us out on chasingissues.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, or simply share us the next time you have a conversation. And with that, I'm Greg, and I'm out of here.